between those two teams who we did see match up in the postseason, we could potentially see it happen again out west next year. Who do you think is going to actually round out and be better next season and actually have a better chance at title contention?
Yeah. The thing about the Lakers is they even kept D'Angelo Russell. Like, we forgot about him. Rui Hachimura. Like, they kept all the players and all the pieces that helped them beat Golden State, and then they just added a couple better players. Like, they didn't really lose anyone. They just added better players to their roster. 3-point shooting, players that can play defense, and Jaxon Hayes, Taurean Prince, 3-and-D. Like, they added basically their strengths or some of their weaknesses, if you can say that, just fix some of their shooting over the case may be. But with Golden State, I feel like I don't know how if Chris Paul starts because he wants to start, he doesn't want to come off the bench. If Chris Paul plays with Draymond Green, how is that going to look? That's weird to me. Like, I'm not like Golden State lost to the Lakers as it is before the Lakers got better in the offseason. So how are we going to be so sure that the unsureness of Golden State can really handle this Lakers team or be better than them if they face off in the playoffs? Like, I'm just not sure about that.
I've got a quick point to kind of big up Chris Paul because I was wondering about the fit. But Chris Paul, especially over these last couple years, in this really weird post-Clipper stage of his career, has always been really good with making himself fit with these really weird lineups. The one I'm going to mention here is one that's really forgotten because we got one season out of it. But that SGA, Chris Paul, and
that was a nice team. And they took the Rockets to 7, didn't they?
They took them to 7, and they were like during the regular season before COVID hit. They were like the most when that lineup was on the floor in the fourth quarter. They were one of the most clutch teams in the league. Or then there's Chris Paul fitting next to James Harden. Like, that's around the time where Harden was playing that point guard role, and everybody's wondering if they were gonna be able to coexist. So we
Chris Paul with that OKC team now.
Oh my goodness. They'd be so dope.
But the thing about this is, even though he finds a way to fit with some of these teams that seem awkward to us, he always gets hurt. He was hurt again this year. Yeah. And he's getting older. So at this point, if you really believe, and I don't want to say this, at this point, if you really believe, since he's getting older, how old is he? Like 38?
He's old. Yeah.
He's 38 or whatever the case may be. He's climbing up there in years, and you expect him to get healthier? It's not going to happen. He's probably going to be, I don't want to wish this on him, but he's probably going to be bound to get hurt this season.
I think that's what I'm more concerned about than the fit. And so when comparing the Golden State Warriors and the Lakers, the big issue with the Warriors is this. So for one, there's Chris Paul's health. So I think the fit thing is less of a concern than a lot of people think. This thing with them is going to be the health. And also it's going to come down to the young guys, right? There's Jonathan Kuminga. There's Moses Moody. There are young guys on that roster who they need to elevate their play and take a step up. You know what I mean? Because Golden State's always been strength in numbers. It's always come down to how good their role players are.
They ain't that anymore.
But they could be, depending on what you get out of Moses Moody and Jonathan Kuminga. We saw great flashes from Moses Moody last season, right? Jonathan Kuminga, we've always seen great flashes from. But their success this season is going to revolve around Chris Paul and what he's able to bring to the table, and if he's going to be available in that entire thing, and also what those two young guys are going to be able to do. Because if they're not able to figure that part out, then essentially they're just the same team as they were last season. If Chris Paul's hurt and those young guys don't show up, you just lost Jordan Poole and you didn't really get better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
A little bit worse, actually.
Exactly.
Yeah. You would definitely get worse if Chris Paul doesn't stay healthy and everything like that. But even if you just compare it back to the Lakers thing, like you mentioned Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody, like their bench still isn't better than the Lakers. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like that was one of the Lakers' strength against the Warriors too. Their bench was better than the Warriors bench in that playoff series. So, and it's just one thing that the Warriors have always struggled against. And they won a lot of championships clearly, but the times they've lost in the playoffs, which has been very few, or championship games, size has hurt them. Size has hurt them a lot. Anytime you have an athletic big, you have a good chance to be at beating Golden State, whether who's ever on their team. So we still got AD, so at least that's something. And we added Jaxon Hayes, which is going to be a big help.
I really trust the depth of the Lakers a lot more. There are just so many things on this roster that works a lot. Like they're just like it's funny because the issue for them during the Westbrook era was so obvious. It was so obvious that it was just spacing, and you get to see how different of a team they are now that they have that spacing there. You know, so I think the Lakers are going to be better. I would put them above Golden State on my contenders list. I think they're on the same tier as far as title contention goes, because we always kind of talk about, you know, who's a tier 1 team or a tier 2 team. I would put Golden State and the Lakers still in that same category, like a tier 1, championship contender, but I think the Lakers have a stronger case for one because they rounded their roster out so well. They brought back everything they needed. There's not going to be any questions about chemistry or anything. For them, it's going to be the health, almost similar to the Chris Paul thing. But I'm impressed by what they did because I was really surprised that they were able to get the pieces that they got back and also keep the guys that they kept. And we think about Austin Reaves, what he did last season. Imagine what he's going to be, how much better he's going to be after this Team USA experience. Like we were talking about that on the last pod, how much that's going to be valuable for those guys. Yeah. Imagine him this coming season for them, you know?
It's that it seemed like Rui Hachimura found his mid-range shot. Like he wasn't missing it. Like I was like, I knew he could shoot, but I was
he was working with Phil Handy too.
Yeah, he was.
It makes sense. Phil Handy like the ultimate coach. Kyrie was talking about it because Austin Reaves was working with him. But he became like a mid-range like dude. Like he was not missing a lot of jump shots in general. You got that. You got the fact that I'm gonna be honest, LeBron didn't play his best in this series, and they still won in 6 games. LeBron wasn't LeBron, so that's something to look at if they ever face off in the playoffs again too, which they probably will, honestly, because it seems like when LeBron is healthy and Steph is healthy, they find they somehow find each other in the playoffs. Honestly, every time.
And I think we're going to see him match up again, and I think we're going to get a better swing at it between these two. Like I said, it's going to come down to Chris Paul's availability. Because my issue, the way people are evaluating the Golden State Warriors offseason, not y'all, but in general, is the fit. I really don't think that's going to be. I don't think it's going to ever hard to fit another playmaker into your system. You know what I mean? And Steph Curry is also a guy who's shown the ability to be very interchangeable. Like he said, okay, I'll play next to Kevin Durant. And not that he really took a step back, but he gave up some duties, to allow himself, to play different roles that allowed Kevin Durant to kind of do more of his thing. And not saying he's going to be a second fiddle to Chris Paul, but Steph Curry knows how to adapt. Like that's a team that wants to fucking win. All those guys know how to adapt. So I think the fit's gonna come all together and it's gonna work, but it's gonna come down to that health and those young guys for Golden State. It's really that simple. I think it really falls on the back of Jonathan Kuminga, Moses Moody, and those young guys they've got. I don't know how much Trace Jackson Davis is gonna play, for them next year, but he's an option they've got off the bench. So
yeah. We never would have thought 10 years ago that Chris Paul and Steph Curry would have been on the same team.
Never.
Them were two dudes who was battling, and it's not even a battle now. Obviously, Steph is better, but there were two dudes that were battling 10 years ago for who's the best point guard in the league, literally. Yep. And now Chris Paul is with the best point guard in the league, so
of all time.
Oh,
you ain't there yet, Carl?
I'm never going to say anything positive about a Golden State. All they rings bullshit. I'm just playing. Yeah. He probably won. I mean, I think Magic. He will be. I think hypothetically, I think Magic would have won that series against the Lakers. I'm just playing because he would have been on the Lakers. That was a joke. That was a joke. But I mean, you can say it. It's not crazy.
Yeah.